Hey English teachers, so if I was starting out the year again and I wanted to nip sentence structure issues in the bud right from the beginning, whether I had a year 7 class or a year 13 class, I would teach these 10 things. Let's go. It's worth noting that I am breaking things down into the tiniest little steps just to make sure no child is left behind. Okay, so number one, step one, I would teach students that a complete sentence has a verb and a subject. Don't worry, we're going to get on to what those are about later on. So a complete sentence has a verb and a subject. Just know that, kids. I'll explain what that means in the next lesson. Just know that. That's lesson number one. Lesson number two. What is a verb? And yes, I would actually do this for year 13. There's a bit of extension on this and I'll tell you that in a minute. Now, first of all, we've talked about a complete sentence having a subject and a verb. Actually, we need to get into the habit of saying a complete sentence has a verb and a subject because it's much easier for students to identify the verb first and then look for the person or thing doing that verb, doing that action. So try and say a complete sentence has a verb and a subject. I think before I said a subject and a verb, but whatever. So a verb and a subject because they're looking for the verb first. All right, so lesson number two is what is a verb? So it's an action word or a doing word, whatever you want to say. The extension part of that is that as native English speakers, we forget that the verb to be is a verb and we forget the verb to have. So you would need to teach those as an extra. Start with the basics: to run, to laugh, to play, but then move on. Hey, did you know that is a verb? Did you know that has is a verb? So that's the extension on that. So that's lesson number two. Naturally, lesson number three is what is a subject? So a subject is a person or a place or a thing. So Auckland, Wellington, New York, or it could be the rubbish bin. I'm looking out at my rubbish bins. The rubbish bin, the lamp, the phone, or it could be Tina. So don't go into, nouns and things. Don't even go down that track. So just the subject is the person or thing taking the action, doing the verb. So that's number three. Number four, do not murder your reader. Put a damn full stop in. So students, and I've said this before in another video, students keep thinking they can take a breath for a comma. You get them to read aloud. Remember, I've said that before. They read their work aloud with expression and read it slowly as well. So, and when they do that, you hear them take a breath and you see them take a breath and it's like, why did you take a breath there? Because I needed to, miss. There's no full stop. You don't get to take a breath. Now keep reading and don't take any breaths until you get to full stop. Obviously, commas and question marks. Oh my God! Commas, question marks and exclamation marks you can take a breath for, but we're keeping it simple, okay? Don't take a breath until you get to full stop. And they're dead on the floor, right? So because they're suffocating. So same thing, that's the message. So lesson number four is put a full stop in. I'm spitting everywhere in my passion. Put a full stop in at the end of your sentence. Please do not murder your reader. Full stops are life. Okay, lesson number five is slotted in here because it's going to help us move on with our sentences later on, and I'll explain this at the end of the video. But number five is all about the simple sentence really, and students understanding that we're just writing simple sentences at the moment and that's a complete sentence. So we've got our verb and our subject. It's a simple sentence, and a clause is the same thing. Okay, so simple sentence, clause, they're the same thing. So the way I like to remember the difference between a clause and a phrase is a clause is a complete sentence, because later on we're going to get onto phrases, but not for our first 10 steps, but it opens you up to that. So teach them what a simple sentence is. It's got a verb and a subject. That's a complete sentence. It's also known as a clause. That was a bit muddled, but you probably get what I mean. Number 6, here we go. Let's add a comma. Start with a comma sandwich. So this is something that I picked up from one of my girls' teachers. So you have a comma sandwich is where you have a sentence and then you've split it down the middle and you've added some extra filling. Okay, so the boy, comma, who was 6 years old, comma, fell off the jungle gym. So the who was 6 years old is the meat in the sandwich. The comma either side I like to think of as the butter, and then there's the bread on the other side. Now you can draw that on the whiteboard for your students, right? So I call it a comma sandwich, and I think that's it's an easy one for students to understand. If you break that sentence apart, think of it as a sandwich, think of the commas as the butter between the slices of bread and the filling. And when students read it aloud, they can hear the pause, and you have to actively practice that. The boy, who was 6 years old, fell off the jungle gym, and hear that pause, and that's where that reading aloud, as I said, comes in handy again. Okay, so that's lesson number 6. Lesson number 7, and we love a bit of descriptive writing, so let's have a little delve into that by starting our sentence with a preposition this time. So, under the car, the cat licked its paws. Under the car, comma, the cat licked its paws. So students learn what a preposition is, or a prepositional phrase. Are we going too far? Let's see how your kids go. So under the car, comma, the cat licked its paws. So the students again need to read that aloud and hear that pause. It's a great way of learning how to write more descriptive, more beautiful sentences. It's a great way of learning a part of speech. It's a great way of reinforcing that comma usage. So we're getting into a little bit extra now. So that's lesson number 7. Okay, lesson number 8 is about starting with an adverb. So again, a bit of descriptive work here. So for example, slowly, comma, the boy opened his bag, whatever. So again, the students are learning a part of speech. An adverb describes the verb, because they already know what a verb is, right? They are learning to read aloud and to pause at a comma. They are learning a more interesting way of beginning a sentence. So we just see how we just scaffold, add a little bit on at a time. All right, so lesson number 9. Remember back in lesson number 5, we looked at the simple sentence. We emphasized to the students, whether they are in year 7 or year 13, what a simple sentence is. It's got a verb, it's got a subject. We're just playing with simple sentences at this stage, and that's another word for a clause, or a clause is another word for a simple sentence. Anyway, so now we're going to join two simple sentences together. So yes, here we have the compound sentences. Now we've got to have a word in between there to join them, a little bondy thing, and so the glue if you want. And of course most of you will know the acronym fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet. So fanboys Those are our coordinating conjunctions that join, they are the glue that join two simple sentences together to make a compound sentence. So I think we're up to that stage now. Finally, the big thing is, and I have said this till I am blue in the face, whenever your students are doing writing, get them to proofread, reading aloud, reading slowly and with expression, so that they can hear where they pause, commas, and where they stop and take a breath, or where they need to stop and take a breath, so that means they've got to add a full stop in there. So proofreading, lesson number 10, I'd push that and I would hammer that all year. We do it when we're writing something important, even as English teachers, and we're pretty good at English. So students definitely have to do it. So that's my 10 little things that I would teach if I was starting from scratch, whether I was teaching year 7 or year 13, because I think from there you can nip a hell of a lot of problems in the bud. So what does this set you up for? This sets you up to delve into sentence structures. As I said before, you can go into complex sentences. Did I say that before? I don't know. So you can delve into complex sentences from there. You can delve into, my personal favourite is, why did I need the word personal in there? That's redundant language, right? My favourite is, don't you love my most favourite? Oh, drives me nuts. My favourite is the minor sentence. So that's fun to play with, because you can show the students, minor sentences don't have a subject and or don't have a verb. So that's playing with that sentence, basic sentence structure again. So let's break the rules. Now that we know the rules, we can break the rules. What else have I got noted down? You can start teaching more about commas now that they understand, please God, the pause, the whole idea behind the comma and how it helps us. Then you can get into things like your listing or your commas where it's needed, where they are needed for dialogue, for example. Because you've done these 10 lessons, excuse me, you're set up to teach what a phrase is. So a clause and a phrase we often get mixed up. Clause, complete sentence. A phrase is just a group of words. Phrase is phony. Find ways to help them remember. So you can teach that because they already know what a clause is. And the other thing is, do keep sweating the small stuff, like the proofreading, the full stops, the commas. No. And do model it yourself, because if we are not modeling it, then when are they saying it? And it does matter. It does matter. So I guess they would be my 10 lessons that I would teach, and you could call it your English initiation, your rite of passage, get your sentence structures, driving license, sentence structures license, like at primary school you have your pen license. So however you want to market it, if I was starting the year again, I would do that with every single class. These are our 10 lessons, and you'd have to mop up the kids that aren't getting it, because otherwise you're going to end up in strife later on. And that is our video for today. Okay, enjoy.